A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu newspaper class with me. I'm Saumya. Today being 30th January 2026, almost the end of the first month for this new year. We are inching close to your prelims exam. Okay, so today from the Hindu newspaper, New Delhi edition, I have picked up about 6 articles for you, which are crucial. And we shall start from the editorial page like a practice, like every day. The first 3 articles here are indeed editorial articles. And the remaining articles are important because we all know about the UGC campus equity rules that have been making news headlines. Apart from that, also the economic survey. So, a quick look from the front page into the economic survey as such. What does it say? And then eventually, we are also going to analyze today in India, does the government spend enough amount of money, enough percentage of GDP into healthcare? Now, this has been controversial since we experienced the COVID tragedy. We know that we were not prepared to face a health tragedy of a large scale like COVID. And today, as the World Health Organization says, in future, the world may experience, owing to the antimicrobial resistance, newer kinds of pandemics, newer kind of zoonosis epidemics. Are we indeed prepared to face them? So that's an article from page number 10, text page that we shall look into. Now, here is a quick glimpse of the Telegram QR code for those who are still in the process of finding the channel or who are still not able to locate the channel. And yesterday I posted a very interesting UPSC fun question. Today I will give you the answer for that. Simultaneously, we shall also work on improving our writing ability. So yesterday I talked about sentence polishing. So we shall continue with this, and then next month, that's from March onwards, we'll have a newer theme. So every month, let's take up a new interesting theme for UPSC and let's improve our prelims knowledge as well as writing ability. Okay, so before I start with today's articles, all the 6 articles for the day, beginning from the first one from editorial page, which is GS paper 2, India and Arab League relationship. Recently, India signed a free trade agreement, a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, as well as a mutual defense strategic agreement, not just with UAE, but yesterday also a security dialogue with Saudi Arabia. What a balancing act for India's foreign policy. Two countries in the Gulf area in West Asia, UAE led by MBZ, Saudi Arabia led by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Both ideological enemies, both fighting over Yemen, both one of the largest members of OPEC. Today, they are not having a smooth relation, but India believes in stable relation with entire West Asia. So one by one, India has signed parallel deals with both these enemies from West Asia. Let's investigate a little deeper in the article. And before I do that, as a protocol, I need to welcome all my dear aspirants, all my dear chief guests in today's lecture. So these are Pranarthi, Satya, Bulbul, Sitaram, Shakti, Hira, Sumed, Santosh, Kaizen, Eric, Madhav, Ramu, World Cricket, Apex, Kavish, Saurav, Sadhana, and Priyanshu, and Hika, Sonu, Sumit, Santosh. Very, very good morning, everyone. God bless each one of you, and you're most welcome to the class. Anna Sinu as well. I wonder why Vikash and Kojumba have not been joining us for the last few days. Today I haven't seen Terukula either, but for all those who are present, a big welcome, and let's keep welcoming more students who keep joining in. Let's investigate in the first editorial page article, India Arab League. Bridging cultures, creating opportunities. How are India and Saudi Arabic? How are India's entire West Asian relationship developing? How is India even managing to maintain a very, very strategic autonomous approach towards various countries of the Gulf region? All these are oil rich countries. All these countries have, they are host to Indian diaspora. Many Indians in the formal as well as the blue collar sector work here. They are a great source of remittance for India, energy security for India. They are a key participant in India's IMEC, India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, and therefore India believes in a stable relationship here. Unfortunately, the entire West Asia itself is not stable. There are multiple power games going on in West Asia. Whether you look at the controversy over Yemen, where Saudi and UAE and Iran are fighting a proxy war. You should remember the map, even with closed eyes, as we are talking. You must remember what's going on at the same time in Iran. From 1979 onwards to today, the first big revolution in Iran. Protests are going on. America, Saudi Arabia, Israel are watching like eagles. They want to take advantage of the situation. Oil prices and currency value of Iran declining. Proxy war may break out soon. At the same time, if you look at Israel Palestine, there is no peace either. Recently, President Trump did create the Gaza Peace Board. India was also invited to that peace board. But there is no immediate commitment towards a long lasting peace in this area that we know. Among all these global controversies, among all this heated situation in West Asia, India, though, believes in its multi alignment policy. India still feels that we should not lose on long standing trade partners and we must have parallel engagement with them. It also means India is not committing to any military involvement in West Asia. This is purely an engagement with regards to defense partnership, with regards to anti terror ideology, and with regards to more industrial production, more energy, oil, and gas security. That's all India is interested in because today, as our External Affairs Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar, has many times repeated, even in his very famous book called Raisina Dialogue, he has said that India will do what works for India. So, from non alignment to now, strategic autonomous multi alignment. That is what is India. So, now let's see what's going on in this article. Please understand that India and Arab League foreign ministers met on 30th January. Now, today morning, they are in the process of meeting. As you and I are talking, India and the leaders of Arabic countries, Arab League foreign ministers will be meeting now. What's the agenda for this meeting? This is going to be the second India Arab foreign ministers meeting being held in New Delhi. Yes, it is happening at a time when West Asia itself is experiencing too much instability. But what are the agendas here and what are the tensions that are involved here? Now, today you all understand, as we just discussed right now, you never know. In few days to come, America may choose to take a stricter action on Iran. We don't know. We know that America is already deploying some kind of a military, some naval infrastructure near West Asian, the Gulf Coast. It may possibly mean some attack or some provocation that America will give to Iran. We don't know. At the same time, Syria. We just understood about Syria. We spoke about Al Assad, how his regime finally collapsed in 2024. We saw how advantage was taken by the leader Al-Shara. Al-Shara is a key supporter ally of America, so America will have a domination in Syria. At the same time, within Syria, there is a war going on between ethnic communities, the Alawite and the Druze community. We saw how Syria is not experiencing any peace right now. In fact, Syria is still torn in civil war. Once again, a proxy war between Turkey, between Russia, between America. Among all these problems, there is the Gaza uncertainty. The genocide in Gaza continues. There is no guarantee of any peace process or any ceasefire in times to come. Saudi UAE are not friends anymore. We all have seen their proxy wars in Yemen, in other regions like Uganda. We've also seen their differing interest with regards to places like Iran itself. Now, in this controversy, India has been a very keen observant. India has been very carefully watching all these developments because definitely it impacts our energy security. It impacts Indian diaspora, Indian population living there. It does impact India's trade routes. Do not forget. If the Chabahar port in Iran, near the Bandar Abbas region, if that's very important to India, yes, if that is important to India as a part of IMEC corridor, then any instability in Iran or any UN sanction on Iran will also harm, it will hamper India's development and investment in the IMEC. So India cannot afford that. Now, any instability tomorrow, if it breaks down, further if Iran collapses into, say, recession or America takes a strong action, What does it mean? It means India will lose all the investment through IMAC. India's IMAC process itself is going to be delayed for many more years now. So India cannot afford this regional instability. So what is happening in the Arab League? What is Arab League all about? Let's talk about the Arab League quickly. What do you mean by the Arab League? Now, talking about the Arab League is an organization that was created in 1945. Very interesting, because even your United Nations was created in 1945. October 1945. Many times we saw how last year we celebrated almost the 75th and beyond 80th anniversary of United Nations. Now all these are institutions created after the Second World War. They aim at creating regional political cooperation. Similarly, Arab League took birth in 1945. If you look at the headquarters of Arab League, then it is headquartered in a place called Egypt, the capital being Cairo. So Cairo, Egypt is the headquarter. But what is this? Arab League, you can also call it the League of Arabic Nations, has about 22 member countries from West Asia and North Africa. So let's remember, it has about 22 members created back in 1945. The membership is chiefly coming from North Africa, or it is coming from West Asia. Both Saudi Arabia, now this is an important information, but both Saudi Arabia and UAE are members of the Arab League. Both are members of the Arab League. In fact, Saudi Arabia is a founding member. Since 1945, it was UAE which joined in 1971. 1971 is a very important year for India. 1971 was Ramsar Convention. 1971 was India, Pakistan, Bangladesh war. So 1971 is important. And do remember, UAE joined in 1971. All Gulf Arab countries, listen carefully, all Gulf Arab countries, including Saudi, including UAE, including Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, all these are members of Arab League as well. And they are all members of Arab League. As I just said, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, Saudi, oil-rich nations of the world. India maintains a very diplomatic relations with each one of them, but all of them are engaged in political controversy right now. A very good question at this point. It is not in the article, it's between you and me. What is the difference between Arab League and GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council? What's the difference between Arab League and the GCC? Now, this is a topic very interesting. I will post a question on this topic on Telegram today. But today I will also try to create a poll on that so that you can poll your answers and we can have a more fun-based discussion. So I'll post a question on that. Keep thinking about it. The difference between Arab League and GCC. Coming back to India, India's formal engagement with the League of Arabic Nations, the same Arab League of 1945, began in 2002. It began in 2002 through a memorandum of understanding. And since then, we've had regular dialogues with this Arab League. There are many international frameworks that India has decided to sign with the Arab League. Which frameworks are these? Looking at 2002, Memorandum of Understanding signed between India and Arab League, we will create cooperation. Second, 2008, Arab-India Cooperation Forum was established. Arab-India Cooperation Forum established 2008. Looking at 2010, Indian ambassador to Egypt was designated as a permanent representative of India to the League of Arabic Nations. Yes. 2016, first AICF, Arabic India Cooperation Forum meeting was held in Bahrain. Yes. Now, India and Arab League Partnership and Investment Summit keep on happening time to time. In 2026, this year itself, we are looking at a new partnership between India and Arab Chambers of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. There are broadly about 2 to 3 pillars of this cooperation between India and Arab League. The first one is strategic and political. How? We are looking at how India has signed strategic partnership with first Oman. Remember, from Oman, you can see Oman on the map, you must remember the Dukum port. The Dukum port in Oman, to which India has access. India's navy has an access to the Dukum port in Oman. India recently signed an agreement with Oman when our Prime Minister Shri Modi had visited three countries together: Ethiopia, Jordan, and Oman. Do not forget that. Yes, coming back to UAE, 2015 onwards, India UAE have had great relationship. Day before yesterday, we have once again revised a strategic partnership with UAE. We've also signed a SEPA, a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with UAE led by MBZ, enemy of Saudi Arabia. Very good. Similarly, as Terukula reminds, it was INS Kondinya, the hand-stitched ship that was created through the Tankai method. That is the ship that had visited the Dukum port in Oman. Oil-rich country, the neighbor of another oil-rich country, but this one very poor, called as Yemen. So please focus on the map as we are talking. We are talking, but your focus should be on the map. Okay. Now, India also has agreements with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar parallelly. India supports Arab countries multilateral forums like India supports all the Arabic countries through forums like BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India also has a shared development vision such as Saudi India Vision 2030, UAE Centennial Vision 2071, Oman Vision 2040. All this aligns with Viksit Bharat 2047. What about the trade dimension? India Arab League trade today, purely the trade between India and Arab League. So if you see India on one side and you see Arab League on the other side, the trade has already crossed $240 billion. Looking at SEPA, I just told you SEPA was signed with UAE. UAE and India are targeting to increase their trade up to $200 billion by 2030. All these are major investment areas for India. Most of India's trade, now what I'm going to say now, listen carefully. Most of India's trade passes through the Suez Canal. Where is the Suez Canal? Where is the Suez Canal? Suez Canal, remember, the link that we create between the Mediterranean Sea. Then comes here on the map the Red Sea. Then it flows down south Gulf of Aden, and from here most of the trade enters the Eastern Hemisphere, all the Eastern Asian countries. So remember the Suez Canal, Egypt region. Majority of India's trade passes through Egypt area, Suez Canal. It passes through the Red Sea on the map. It passes through the Gulf of Aden on the map. And therefore, all these areas are strategically important to India. Also because of IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Now in this map here, this is a quite a, I would say, informative map. If you focus on this map, all of my students, you will realize both the choke points are visible here. Both the global choke points are visible on this map. If you look at the left side of the map, below Yemen, into the Red Sea, you will see the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. What do you see? The Bab al-Mandeb Strait. Yes, sure I will. Bab al-Mandeb Strait, an area that was characterized by Houthi violence in Yemen. Yes, a strategic choke point. If you go towards right, if you go to Oman right now, and if you go above Oman, if you look at UAE, India's CEPA country, MBZ country, UAE almost wears a cap that enters into Oman. And which area is that? Strait of Hormuz, an area which Iran has threatened to close repeatedly. Repeatedly, Iran says, I will close this area if anybody is trying to interfere in my situation or if America tomorrow attacks me. Previously, also, when Israel had attacked Iran in 2025, Iran threatened to close Strait of Hormuz. Both regions are the nerve points of all the global trade. Beautiful question coming from Ram. It's very simple, the flow itself. You have the Mediterranean Sea. In the map, it's not visible. Only if the map was more on the left-hand side, you could have seen the Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean Sea. Now, it connects with this Red Sea here on your map. Through what? Through the Egyptian Suez Canal. Very narrow point, but very crucial point. Majority of shipping lanes are associated with this area. From the Suez Canal, now the ships and the tankers will enter the Red Sea. Red Sea enters Bab al-Mandeb Strait at Yemen border. From there, everything turns right. You can see the Gulf of Aden. Gulf of Aden, it connects itself into now the broader Arabian Sea area. You see, that is the link. I hope it's clear to you, Ram. Yes, and both the strategic points are visible here. Left side, I'll circle Bab al-Mandeb. Right side, I'm circling Gulf of Hormuz, Strait of Hormuz. Be very clear about the map, each one of you. Very clear about it. Mediterranean Sea, Suez Canal, Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, finally Arabian Sea. Is it clear to everyone? Thank you so much. Now, for India, this is a very important area. You just saw 12%, 25% respectively trade, oil, gas passes from both these strategic choke points on the map. India has a connectivity here. Look at Iran. Look at Chabahar port. Look at Dukum port. Bandar Abbas port. India has a key investment in these regions. India cannot afford any instability in this area. Therefore, it aligns with India's own vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. So, therefore, another area of cooperation with the West Asia is going to be digital and fintech cooperation, finance technology. In UAE from 2019, India has already introduced the RuPay cards. The RuPay cards. Indian rupee is already accepted in Dubai airports from 2023. Yes. Now, rupee dirham settlement system has also become operational. UPI, Unified Payment Interface of India, is already being accepted in Bahrain, Saudi, Qatar, UAE. It shows a growing trust between India's digital public infrastructure and the West Asian regions. And now, if you talk about all the energy security, a very valid point made by Satya. Energy security is crucial in this area. Today, we are the second largest importer of Russian oil, but it's not a good idea to depend on one country for all your oil and gas requirement. Owing to American sanctions, tomorrow Russian oil is unpredictable in supply. Hence, it is the Arab region that's a great source of energy security to India. If you look at the current situation, 60% of crude oil in India comes from the West Asia, OPEC. 70% of natural gas comes from West Asia. 50% Indian fertilizers come from West Asia. Who are the key suppliers to India? Saudi, UAE, Iraq. UAE and India have recently signed a major deal also in order to promote strategic petroleum reserve. Similarly, India has signed with Qatar a long-term liquefied natural gas LNG deal that from 2024 onwards, now we will ultimately aim in another 20 years to boost LNG supply to 7.5 megaton per year. What about defense and security? Defense agreements are already there with Qatar, separately with Saudi, with Egypt, with countries like UAE and Oman. India has the Sagar initiative. Security and growth for all in the ocean region. Then India has the Mahasagar initiative. All these promote maritime security. What about the Dukum port in Oman, on which Terukula was talking about the INS Kondinya? Yes, the Dukum port to which India has access to. Now, this gives Indian Navy strategic access to maintain, repair, and monitor its fleet. At the same time, it can also be a great strategic point for India to have a monitoring over Chinese naval activity in the nearby areas. Arab countries support counter-terrorism, a key agenda for India. There is a growing interest between India selling them, India exporting to these countries BrahMos missile. India has already exported BrahMos missile to countries like Philippines. Soon it might happen to countries like Malaysia. There's one more country, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, to which India has already sold BrahMos with permission, with approval from Russia because it's a joint venture. Now India might export BrahMos. India might export Tejas, the LCA, Light Combat Aircraft of India. India may sell Akash missile artillery guns to all these areas in West Asia. Very good. Boosting India's export. Brilliant, Terukula. Indonesia. Wonderful. Indonesia, one of the biggest buyers. More money has been received from Indonesia for BrahMos than even with Philippines. So it's a major buy. Very good. Emerging areas of cyber security, drone, space. In future, Arab cooperation is central to India's global strategy. We saw the security part, we saw the oil energy part, we saw the defense part. Plus, India will always promote separate, diversified engagements with all these West Asian countries. But there is one thing to remember: India will never have any military involvement here. That's for sure. Quickly, the question with reference to India's engagement with Arab League. Look at these statements here. One, Arab League was created after Second World War to promote political and economic cooperation among the West Asian and North African countries. Two, India's institutionalized dialogue with Arab League began with a memorandum of understanding in 2002. And three, energy cooperation with Arab League countries accounts for more than half of India's crude oil and natural gas imports. Which of these statements are valid then? Answers are rolling in from Shlok Terukula, from Shakti Kavish, World Cricket, Sadhana. What about my dear Ramu Sitaram? Sumedh, Santosh. What about Zahir? What about Akhtar? What about Bulbul? Saurav, Madhav. Very good. Apex, Iba, excellent. So, one, what should I do in that case? You know, what do I always do? I give a huge round of applause in your honor because all the statements are correct and you've answered very, very well. Sumit, Hira, Cloud, Rajnishwar, Eric, absolutely well answered. Great job. Now, quickly proceeding with the second article, editorial. Second article is talking about, is India prepared for the end of globalization? It's a very generalized article. You will not see much data here. It's more of a narrative article written by a professor who has experience in South and East Asian geopolitics. So this is GS paper 2 because we are looking at international relations and how are they evolving. We are looking at the changing nature of globalization. Now, if globalization means that economies and cultures and policies of the world regarding climate or agriculture or health should integrate with each other, there is an opposite of globalization, anti globalization, that can also be known as regionalism. Today, the world is swinging between both these phenomena. On the one hand, you have globalization. It was from 1990 onwards that globalization actually took wings. It became a very predominant global phenomena because most countries who were poor and developing, including Latin American countries, including some countries of West Asia, including countries of Asia, all these opened up their boundaries. For example, India did in 1991 through LPG reforms. All the countries opened up markets, they opened up their economies, they allowed un unstoppable, no upper cap to foreign direct investment, more privatization, and hence we are living in a world that's characterized fundamentally by tons of hefty amount of globalization. But then globalization itself as a multi-dimensional process has changed. It has changed tremendously. Globalization has always happened in waves. Today, the globalization that you and I are experiencing is actually known as the fifth wave of globalization. This is the most modernized form of globalization. But let's not assume that globalization was not there earlier. It's not true. If you remember, in the news, recently we had seen, when we were talking about INS Kondinya, we had also seen words like Dilman, Magan. I don't know how many of you actually remember that, but I distinctly remember about 2 months before in the news we heard words like Dilman. We heard words like Magan. It could also be known as Makan. It's a different expression in different books. Dilmun, Makan. What were all these words about? Can anybody relate with these words? These were trading ports. These were sea trading ports. And why were they in the news? Why were they in the news? Because when Oman and Bahrain were in the news. It's also there in NCERT history. When Bahrain and Oman was in the news, then in ancient times, yes, in ancient times, the words for Oman and Bahrain used to be Dilmun and Makan respectively. Very good. Why were they common? Because India, through its Harappan culture, Indus Valley civilization, the Harappan people used to have a very strong trade relationship with Egyptian and Mesopotamian cultures. And all the trade used to pass from Oman and Bahrain, and these were broadly known as Dilmun and Magan. They once again were highlighted in the news as India's Kondinya went to Oman port Dukum port. So remember these words, Dilmun and Magan. Both are the intermediate seaports through which India conducted trade. And in Mesopotamian literature, in their text, Harappan culture has been known as Meluha. Meluha. And all these were the in between trading ports. Yes, Roshan and Shlok and Ramu, Eric, very good. For example, Lothal, the great dockyard in Gujarat, correct. So all these became popular as we were studying about Oman. Yes, so don't forget. Oman and Bahrain earlier used to be known as Dilmun and Magan. Yes. So globalization goes back to that era. Trade between countries used to happen earlier as well. What is different today? There are two differences today. One difference, of course, is that now most of the globalization has become virtual. It's happening through online mode, whether it's integration, interaction, trade in services. Second thing is today globalization has also become very, very cultural. Globalization is an ancient phenomenon. It was there forever. What has changed is the nature of globalization from a very economic process. Globalization from an economic process, today it has evolved into a multi-dimensional process. Globalization is political, yes. Example, Quad. Example, India EU FTA. Globalization is every bit cultural. English language, Western music. Globalization is every bit linguistic. Globalization is food based, cuisine. Globalization is also ideological. All those changes have come right now, but globalization has been there since primitive times. This article is saying if globalization is such an age old process, then why today people like President Trump from America are trying to undermine the value of this globalization by making the world right now a very inward looking, conservative, anti liberal, and regionalistic in nature. Why are we allowing this to happen? So the debate goes back to President Trump and his policies. President Trump openly claimed recently that India should reduce its dependence on Russian oil imports to make him happy. He said that if India doesn't make him happy by reducing the imports, he may impose another 500% tariff on India and other countries like Mexico, Brazil if they don't stop that. He also then immediately withdrew from World Trade Organization, World Health Organization, as well as United Nations, and many more climate protocols like Paris Agreement, COP30, and G20 side by side, undermining the status of NATO, criticizing and insulting the existence of European Union. This reflects that today globalization is not a multi-dimensional process anymore. It has become a transactional approach. It has once again gone back to what it used to be during the times of 14th and 15th centuries. It started with imperialism. After centuries, imperialism and colonialism had become globalization. Not anymore today. From multidimensional globalization, we are once again going back to imperialism and colonialism, where the richer countries like America are forcing the developing countries to work on their terms. It's all about power and money and nothing else. The problem is not trade, the problem is collapse of political system that governed globalization so far. Yes. UN and all the 66 organizations wonderfully said. Correct. Now, what was globalization initially? What was it supposed to be? So long back from 16th century to now, globalization was integration of economies and markets, where capital, that's investment and money and labor, could move freely from one area to another. When I say labor, I mean services. Even if not physical migration, people can still do telemigration, like outsourcing of jobs, the BPO, KPO industry. But globalization meant economic integration. Contracts were enforced across borders. Shared resources were managed through negotiation. The meaning of globalization was that through United Nations, through WHO, through WTO, all the countries can share the resources of the world, the richness of the world, by negotiating with each other. Because if they don't negotiate, they will go back to war, just like in the case of World War I and II, and we don't want that now. We are all nuclear powered countries today. Nobody wants a war. But what's happening now, as Madhav says, history repeats itself. Earlier globalization eventually became liberal, democratic, multilateral, and cooperative. Example, United Nations, UNFCCC, UN Women, example WHO, example Gavi, example COP30, example BRICS Squad, so many more things where countries come together and agree to cooperate because nobody wants a war on the basis of equality, on the basis of negotiation. That's the whole fundamental principle behind UNFCCC. That's the logic behind Paris Agreement 2015. Developing poor countries requesting the richer developed countries that please allow us 1.3 trillion carbon finance fund by 2035 so that we can convert our energy from fossil fuel based to renewable. That's globalization. CBDM, CBDR, common but differentiated responsibilities. That's globalization, but today, no more. Under President Trump policies, the system is now ending and globalization is now finishing. A new process is taking birth. And what is that process? This is known as mercantilism. Mercantilism is coming back. What do you mean by mercantilism? Mercantilism means commercialism. Mercantilism means commercialism. Commercialism, a system in which a country tries to gain maximum wealth through trade with other countries by exporting more and reducing the import. They will export too much, but they will not import too much, and ultimately they will keep on increasing the reserves of gold and precious metals within their country. That's called commercialism or mercantilism. This is what America wants to do right now. A biggest example of American mercantilism, MAGA, Make America Great Again, under President Trump's second regime 2.0. Here, trade is seen as an instrument of war, not negotiation. Trade surplus is strength, trade deficit is weakness. Global trade is increasingly today being driven by national interest, not by shared rules. If you look at the historical evolution, the world economy was global even before it was liberal. Globalization is an age old process of India. Harappan culture, the first urban civilization in India, as Ramu said, the cradle of human civilization. If that can conduct global trade, then almost all early civilizations, it could be Egyptian, Mesopotamian, it could be Harappan, it could be the Chinese, everyone was into globalization, but liberalization was not there. Earlier globalization slowly became colonialism from 14th and 13th century as European countries experienced Renaissance. They experienced a more, age of reason. They experienced industrialization. They started expanding and conquering colonies. So, early globalization that was on trade then got converted into political globalization that's called colonial exploitation, imperialism, colonialism, what the British Empire did. Wealth of industrialized northern countries was always increasing on the basis of unfair, unequal trade. Example, what British did to India, economic drain, faulty deindustrialization, stealing of raw material and imposing no export duty, no import duty, a nude trade on India in which India was reduced to an economic colony and thereby destroying India's agriculture, commercializing it, using all the input for industrialization in Britain. That was the ugly side of imperialism. This was globalization for a very long time until the Second World War. After Second World War, new multilateral global bodies developed. Example, United Nations. We celebrated the 80th anniversary last year. Example, bodies like Bretton Woods organizations, WTO, World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund. We had so many more global agencies which provided legitimacy. Now, this article is using a word legitimacy. Article says the reason we created bodies like United Nations after 1945 was that nobody wanted any more war. Countries wanted cooperation. Cooperation is possible through legitimate organizations, but this word is a very deep word. Legitimacy. Now, for those who have studied polity, PSIR, sociology, Indian society, could relate to the word legitimacy. How is legitimacy different from power? There is another word we use, power. Today, what America is displaying is a show of power, not legitimacy. So, power, when it is added with authority, power, when it is added with legitimacy, in fact, it becomes authority. Legitimacy is the legal backing. Very good. When you back a process by a written piece of law, by a charter, by an acceptable, uniform law, that's called legality. So power is brazen. Power has no reason. What America does today is a show of power. What Israel has been doing in West Asia has been called by people as a show of power. What China does is power. But when power is added with legitimacy, it becomes authority. The reason why we created United Nations and all these bodies was that countries will believe in authority. Nobody wants to listen to power. People will listen to authority, legal authority. Very good. That's the reason why we made all these bodies. And today, what is happening? Today, as President Trump is saying, I want to walk away from UN and 66 more organizations, where is the question of authority? Look at the negative process that's happening. We added legitimacy to power to get authority in the form of bodies like UN. President Trump is walking out of UN, cancelling all the legitimacy, cancelling authority. Now, what he's showing is a game of power. Is this globalization? No, because such globalization leads to inequality and populism. This will always mean rich countries conducting a trade on their own terms with poor countries. Example, the 50% tariff that India was not prepared for, which India and Indian currency is still dealing with, due to which India has experienced a massive trade deficit and massive capital outflow. Investors have pulled money out of Indian market and people are asking why is the value of rupee falling down? It's because of exceeding capital outflow. Why? All because of tariff. What is President Trump doing to Greenland? What is he doing to Venezuela or Iran for that matter? What is he doing with China? All these are acts of economic terror, inward looking policies in rich countries. Now, all this is seeing a parallel development. Parallel development with China. China is a country that has remained bulletproof. China has never experienced a kind of economic loss that other countries have done. What is unique about China? China integrated into the global markets. China became a part of globalization, but China never completely accepted multilateral rules. During the time of COVID pandemic also, people were questioning China's respect towards World Health Organization and perhaps a kind of tacit involvement with some officers of WHO, which never gave anybody clarity on the nature of how COVID actually broke out. Yes, and how was it managed in China? China was a part of globalization. China never completely surrendered to globalization. China never surrendered to authority, multilateral rules. China maintained its own state control over capital, labor, and information. No information is ever leaked out of China. China is a surveilling society like Russia. Huge trade surplus in China is a common thing. Manufacturing capacity, great economic growth, inflation in control, high domestic demand, high export potential, all that is China today. Why? Because China made an alternative model of growth where over time China has been able to challenge the liberal order of the world itself. Today, America can do anything America wants against any country it wants. But with China, America thinks 10 times. That's the reason. I think Terukula and Sitaram can clarify. That's the reason why the G2 summit happened. For the new students, the G2 summit between America and China, between Mr. Xi and President Trump at South Korea before the APEC summit this year in 25. Why did it happen? Because America knows China is a massive economic competitor. To negotiate the tariff and the supply of rare earth element. Now that's a perfect model of maintaining your growth despite so many global bodies there in the world, and still you follow them but you do not completely surrender to them. Today, it is because of people like President Trump that globalization is crumbling. A very good word I can teach you here. It is known as ossification. Okay, ossification. Ossification means when something dies and dissolves completely. Today, globalization is ossifying. Globalization is experiencing ossification. Very good, Sitaram. Absolutely, Santosh Terukula, World Cricket. REE. Yes. Very good. China produces that technology, AB. Well said there. Well said there. So, what is happening under President Trump? Globalization is ossifying today. Major economies are looking at global cooperation as a cost to pay. America says if I put money in UN peacekeeping forces, if I continue to pay money through the COP30, I will suffer. I don't want to finance these people at all. And what is going on? Countries like America and China do not want to sacrifice their sovereignty for authority-based bodies like United Nations. What are they doing? No migration, intolerance towards minorities, aggressive industrial policy, too much tariff terror to other countries trying to be self-sufficient at any cost. China even trying to break American monopoly, very good Santosh, through the BRICS initiative of de-dollarization, of promoting alternative currency abhilash like yuan domination between Russia, China. Very good. And how does it impact the developing countries? Now, developing countries have some price to pay. If you look at India, India is a country that strongly stood for common but differentiated responsibilities at the COP30 summit in Belém, Brazil. India said, without the monetary support of developed nations like America, how can we even transition towards carbon neutral? We need that support. It's a promise they had made under Paris Agreement 2015, but the developed countries are choosing to cancel that promise. They are not living up to that promise. With such multilateral institutions failing, countries like India have a tough role to play. We know there is no support. Today, if a country terrorizes us, there is no justice either. Now, I'm asking you a question. It could sound like a very emotional rhetoric also. But when India was experiencing the Pahalgam terror attack, and when we retaliated through the Operation Sindoor, at that time, if there was a legitimate authority in global bodies, why did International Monetary Fund immediately after that give a bailout to Pakistan? Why did United Nations Security Council in one of its important panel appoint Pakistan as a chairperson there? Why did all these things happen, I'm asking? If there was any value in these global bodies in terms of authority and legitimacy, it was not. It was not. And today, limits have been crossed as all these countries have chosen to walk out of these global bodies. America is doing. China has never respected. Israel is doing as well. So now what is happening? India, a country which is too big, the largest and the most populated. But at the same time, a voice of global south has a very big thing to reconsider. See, today we have it is a rhetoric, but it's valid also in some way. Can't deny that that's reality too. I mean, what support did we actually get during the time of Operation Sindoor? Yes, when Pakistan broke article 24 of UN charter, but we were highlighting article 51. But at that time we did not see any support from either Turkey or Saudi, or a kind of open vocal support from America. We did not see that. Yes, so that also shows the authority of all these global bodies, right? So what can India do in this tough situation? So one thing India has had problem with is about losing the potential of demographic dividend. India is the most populated country. Yesterday, Ramu clarified 1.47 billion people. At the same time, we have also wasted our demographic dividend. We know that. 15 years window has been wasted. Indian society is increasingly stratified, unequal. People are poor. There is income inequality. We have demographic advantage, but we could not use that. So what can we do in the future? In the future, we know the world is not a safe place to be in anymore. Especially with instability in West Asia, Russia-Ukraine war, America's tariff war. No kind of peace is on the corner, around the corner. So what can we do? We can promote one. What can we promote? Digital public infrastructure. What can we promote? Renewable energy. Yes, Terukula. We can promote service sector. We can promote democratic decentralization. But in today's mercantilist world, it's very important to use partnerships very carefully. And that is what India is a master at doing. So the multi-alignment that we are doing now is probably the only solution, because the world will continue to be a very unstable place, and without a strong social contract, without using demographic dividend, without expanding digital infrastructure, it is tough to become the Vishwa Guru. Then it only remains to be a rhetoric, as we are talking about one. So we must focus on that, because today the liberal globalization is already collapsing. Sorry to say, but actually it is in a very ossified, crumbled state. So, question here now, with reference to changing nature of global economic order, consider these statements. One, globalization has been limited to free trade in goods and services and did not involve political or institutional arrangements. Two, present global trade system is increasingly shaped by mercantilist commercial thinking, where trade is used as an instrument of state power. And three, China integrated into the global economy by fully complying with all norms of multilateral liberal order. Easy question. Yes, what do you mean by silver economy? An economy which is dominated by old people, and therefore all the production, all the manufacturing is also designed to meet their needs. Example, Japan, South Korea. What do you mean by Gini coefficient, where we measure the inequality in a country? It has to be 1 or lower than that. Okay? Yes. Answers are coming. Sumit, Apex, Hira, Hika, Sitaram, Eric, Ramu, very good. Saurav, Kaizen, Swapna has also answered. Priyanshu answers there. Many more code names in between. Yes. Kaizen. Everyone is saying that the answer here should be B. Is that the case? Should the answer be B or should it be A? It's a fractured verdict. You have reminded me of the split verdict between Justice Nagaratna and Justice Vishwanathan on the anti-corruption bill, section 17. You are giving split verdict to me. Is the third statement correct? Absolutely wrong. China has integrated in multilateral global economy. Yes. China does participate in UN. After all, it's a permanent member of UNSC. But at the same time, China has never completely followed or surrendered to these bodies. China has done it on its own terms. So 3 is not correct. Yes. Today, Ramu has absolutely caught my trick. I was trying to be smart, but I have been oversmarted by my own students today. He understood that my trick is something else only. Yes. Well done. Very good. So, third is not correct. If third is not correct, can C be correct? Can D be correct? No. Then what about A and B? B. Second, the present global trade system is increasingly shaped by mercantilist thinking, where trade is used as an instrument of state power. Absolutely, yes. That is what you mean by commercialism, mercantilism, where a country tries to push its exports, reduce its imports, create more reserve of gold and critical minerals, and ultimately a country uses tariff, like what President Trump is doing. Tariff as an instrument of war. Yes, trade is used as a state power. Absolutely, that's what America does. So will second statement not be correct? Correct. Then A should be the right answer. Very good. Absolutely, that is what Justice Nagaratna said. No third party, but what does Justice Vishwanathan say? We need the Lokpal. Very good. Huge round of applause. Well answered. And the best thing is you caught my trick. Now that is wonderful. That's very good. And I'm so proud of you. Beautiful. Well done, everyone. God bless everyone. Well done. Third article, editorial page. Article says quick pill. What does the article say? Quick pill. Yes. It is not working anymore. I have to find new strategies now. I will find them. Third article, quick pill. Which topic? GS paper 3. We are looking at pharmaceutical sector. We are looking at essential medication, drug sector, drug manufacturing, compliance of rules in the drug manufacturing sector, GS paper 3, science and technology. Beyond that, do not ever forget that India is the pharmacy of the global south. For those who are new to the class, India is not just a pharmacy of global south. India is a pharmacy of global south because India produces a very high amount of generic drugs. India is not a leader when it comes to patented drugs. India is a leader when it comes to generic drugs. I have explained the difference already. So therefore, you must know everything about these two. Everybody should know compulsory licensing also. Everybody should know TRIPS. Everybody should know. Yes, very good. You should also know about the Bayer's pharmaceutical controversy. Very good. Excellent. In this backdrop, let us see what has happened. Has the government done any more liberalization? Yes, the government has done. And what has happened right now? Very good. What has happened right now? The government of India has today decided to remove the mandatory, compulsory test license procedure that is needed to manufacture small quantities of drugs for research and development purposes. Now, before a drug can be rolled out into market, there has to be a proper clinical trial, there has to be a good amount of research into it. The government today has removed mandatory testing protocols on this kind of small quantities of drugs that are manufactured for testing and research purpose. Why? All this is a part of amendment that the government is today creating to the new drug and clinical trial rules 2019. What is the objective? Ease of doing business. We want to promote ease of conducting business in the pharmaceutical sector. Yes, to make it more easy to comply. Otherwise, it takes too long for approvals to come, and there is a limited quantity of drug available for research purpose, and that's what we are trying to fix here. Therefore, it's a part of new drugs and clinical trial rules 2019. Okay. Now, what will replace the license system now is a bigger question. Rather than taking a proper mandatory license, you can do an intimation. You can inform on a prior basis, much before you can inform the authorities, the people who are developing drugs. Okay, the drug developers and drug manufacturers can now manufacture small quantities of these drugs for research, testing, study, analysis after giving a prior information, just informing the CDSCO. What is CDSCO? The Central Drug Standard Central Control Organization. All you need to do is to just inform them by a prior notice. That's all. Where will the information be put? Information will be done. And how will you give them information? You can inform them by uploading your application on the Sugam portal. Okay, online application Sugam portal. Once you have given the notice, once the notice of your intention, notice of intent has been given, it has been approved also, now you can start your drug related research. No problem, no more barriers. Is there a benefit here? Yes. Usually because government estimates that drug development timeline will reduce by almost 3 months. We are also in the process creating a quick research into low risk bioavailability and bioequivalence studies. Now, what do you mean by bioavailability and bioequivalence? Very important. Bioavailability means how fast and how much of a drug enters the bloodstream after you eat it. What is bioequivalence? Bioequivalence means whether a new drug can give the same performance as the standard approved drug. Both these are important. Why? Because if you create a new drug today, if India makes a new generic drug today, by copying the formula of a patented drug, before consumers can eat that drug, is it not important to know whether the drug will take the same time in reaching their bloodstream, in giving them the benefit, just like the patented original drug? Is it not important to know that the drug will have the same impact on human body as the original patented formula? It's very important. So both kind of studies, bioavailability and bioequivalence, are crucial before you can launch a new drug. These tests are very important. Otherwise, nobody will trust your medicine. It will not work also properly on them. Okay. So how fast and how much can you conduct these small researches will also determine the speed at which you can roll out new medications for newer diseases that are now spreading rampantly, whether NCD or whether the communicable diseases like viral infections. Yes, correct. With that, for high risk drugs, now there are certain drugs that are high risk drugs like psychotropic drugs. We spoke about Operation White Cauldron last year in 2025, where The government had busted rackets that were producing secretly in a place called Valsad in Gujarat a drug called alprazolam. It was a psychotropic drug substance. So these are psychotropic drugs. These are called high risk drugs. They are high risk because they are narcotic substances. For them, license is still required, but the processing time has been reduced from 90-day to 45-day window. So overall, we are liberalizing whether it is smaller quantities of basic drugs or whether it's narcotic or psychotropic substances. Now, entire process is being done in a paperless manner. All the approval and all the information can now be done online so that there is no delay. Faster movement of drugs from labs to consumers will improve life-saving capacity in India. People's life will be saved. And why is it important in India? It supports India's ambition to become pharmacy of the world. Today, India is a pharmacy of global south. Tomorrow, we are planning to become pharmacy of the world. What is bioequivalence? Bioequivalence means when the new drug has exactly the same impact on the body as the original approved patented formula. You get the same performance of this drug as you get in the case of an original drug. And what is availability? The amount of drug, the time taken for the drug to come, to go to your system and get absorbed in your bloodstream. Okay, it's also about absorption. Sometimes bioavailability also means how much of the drug you will actually absorb in the bloodstream and how much gets wasted. So usually, suppose if we eat a dolo, what we believe is that this entire 650 mg is going to take care of my body, my pain or my fever, but that doesn't happen. Entire milligram doesn't work on you. It only depends on your body also. It's individualistic also. It's very biological also. That how much of this 650 milligram will actually be absorbed in your bloodstream. That's bioavailability, and that will depend not only on the quality of the drug, also on your own body type. Yes, so that's the difference, and both these are important studies here. So the amount of drugs you absorb will work for you. The amount that's wasted is not going to work for you. So bioavailability has to be very well thought out whenever you roll out a new generic drug, say, in the process. And today, what are we trying to do? Ultimately, as my students are saying, as Shakti is saying, it's an attempt at removing license raj in the pharmacy sector if we as Indians want to become the pharmacy of the world. It removes license raj. It promotes pharmaceutical research and development. Is there a risk here? Yes, there is a concern about quality and safety. Faster approvals should not dilute quality. We must follow good manufacturing processes. GMP. Good manufacturing processes are crucial to follow. A detailed documentation needs to be done. You must do a detailed documentation on all the research that's taking place. These things we can't take lightly. At the same time, the government must create a post information monitoring mechanism to ensure safety. Okay, so what should the government do? The government in India then must also create a post intimation monitoring mechanism. Post intimation monitoring, very, very important. So if you take care of all these things, then it's a very good step. It's a very good step at ending government control, scrapping research licenses, and promoting more research and development. After all, whom is it going to help? It's going to help Indians. It's going to help our people. Yes? At least it should match 80%. Correct. For some critical category of drugs, it could go up to 85% also. Very good. With reference to recent amendment in India's pharmaceutical regulatory framework, look at these statements. One, the mandatory license, test license for manufacturing small quantities of drugs for research has been replaced by a prior intimation mechanism. Second, after online acknowledgement of notice of intent, drug synthesis for research can begin without waiting for a physical license. And three, all categories of drugs, including high risk, psychotropic, and narcotic ones, no longer require any form of licensing. Which of these are true? Very easy question if you understood the main point of the article. Very good. Tericula. Absolutely apex. AMR is a rising problem right now. Antimicrobial resistance. Correct. XDR-TB, MDR-TB, rifampicin. Remember all those. Sumed, Shakti, Madhav. Fair enough. Hika, Saurav. Everyone is saying A is the right answer. Should A be the right answer? Absolutely, it should be. A is the right answer. Big round of applause to all my students. D is, third statement is wrong. Correct, Sumit. Correct, Atul. Correct, Akshay, Eric, Priyanshu. Absolutely. Why not correct? Because, especially for high risk drugs like psychotropic and narcotic, we will still need license. The only change is that in the case of high risk drug, the permission approval window has been reduced from a very high amount of time. Say, for example, from a period of 90 days to almost half, about 45 days today. That's the only change in the case of high risk narcotic and psychotropic. But for all others, yes, no need to obtain a license. Prior online information will take care of that. You can just inform, and that's enough. So very well done, Abhilash, AB, Naveen, and Rajnishwar, codename Chip. Excellent performance as always. Very good. Quickly, the next article, text page, last long article for the day. Has health spending by center increased? Let's summarize it quickly. GS paper 3, science technology. We are again looking at the health sector in India. Article is saying under the National Health Policy of 2017. Now, many times I have told my students before also, in GS paper 2 mains exam, when we study vulnerable communities, health is also an important part of that. In that syllabus, many times in GS paper 2, you are getting a direct question in UPSC mains that why is the National Health Policy 2017 and why is the Mental Health Act of 2017 revolutionary in India? Mental Health Act and National Health Policy 2017 are a revolution in India. This is a very common scoring question. 10 marks question, 15 marks question. Think about it. You should know the answer. We can discuss that. Now, coming back to National Health Policy, what is going on? It promised that government will raise expenditure on healthcare from 1.15% to 2.5% of GDP by 2025. It also promised that the union government should contribute 40% of total public health spending. But are these promises been fulfilled? They are not. The reality in 2026 is that the goal is not achieved. Government at the center is only spending 0.29% of GDP on healthcare. That's it. That's the union. That's the union healthcare spending, 0.29% of GDP. Similarly, to meet the target that was promised in 2017, the center's allocation must triple itself to 1% of the GDP, and that's not happening. That's not happening at all. India today is spending far less as compared to other countries when it comes to healthcare. Even if you compare with countries as small as Bhutan, it spends 2.5 times more than India on per capita health. Sri Lanka into 3 times. Other countries of the BRICS platform, they are spending 14 to 15% extra, times extra. And if you look at Thailand and Malaysia, they are spending 10 times more money than India on healthcare. One more thing has happened. In India, it is the state governments that have increased their public health expenditure after COVID experience. But the central government has not expanded. Center is not increasing, state is increasing. If you look at the data by RBI, health spending by the state governments increased from 0.67% of GDP to 1.1% of GDP. In the state budget also, the share of health, public health rose from 5 to 5.6%. But nothing has happened. Nothing has happened in the case of central government. The central government has not done anything here. Center after the COVID pandemic also is actually spending 4.7% lesser when you talk about real terms as compared to 2021. What will happen as a result of that? With prices increasing, with more inflation, with more diseases coming in, there is no guarantee that people will afford a solid and reliable health care in India. Very good. Definitely. It is a state subject, but at the same time, it's the duty of the central government to spend enough money by allocating right amount of GDP, and that hasn't happened. This shows another problem. Now we have many times before spoken about cess. If my students remember, when we were talking about the Central Finance Commission, I told you states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala are unhappy about the horizontal devolution. They say we never get enough money and the central government never shares any amount of cess with us. Yes? What is a cess? What do you mean by cess? A cess is a tax that is earmarked for a specific purpose. A cess is a tax where money is fixed for a specific purpose. Cess allocations need not to be shared with the states, therefore. Very good, Terukula. Article 280-281, Finance Commission. Yes. Cess is a special tax kept separately for a specific purpose. It does not have to be shared with the states by the center. There is no need to share it. They are meant to be used only for stated objectives like health and education. But what has happened in India? Thousands of crores of rupees have already been collected as a part of this cess every year, but the states have not got anything out of that. Nothing out of that. If you look at the health and education cess, 4% extra was introduced in 2019 to boost expenditure on health. And how much money was collected? 71,000 crore rupees was collected, but it was never distributed among the states. Only a very small share out of that has been spent by the center on health. Where did the rest of the money go? The rest of the money disappeared as being utilized for general expenditure. It is now called general revenue. Therefore, this cess is being used by the central government to promote its extra revenue, not to spend on health budget. What is cess? Cess is an extra tax that is taken for a targeted specific objective. Therefore, it is not to be shared with the states like health and education. Government imposed extra 4% in 2019. We created 71,000 crore out of that. But was it shared with the states or given to health budget? No, it wasn't. What are the reasons behind it? Why has that happened? It happened because 76% of union health spending was earlier being transferred to the states. Okay, done. We are looking at cess. Both the details are written here, but this money was not shared with the states. Now looking at central budget. Earlier, 76% of center's budget was shared with the states, transferred to the states as a part of centrally sponsored schemes. Now what is happening? This share has fallen to 43% in 2025. For centrally sponsored scheme, the center is not giving enough money to states, from 76 to only 43%. What does it mean? Centralization of funds. This is not called federalism at all. States are experiencing money shortage, severe money shortage for implementing national health mission programs, for implementing Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana, for implementing nutrition and health related programs. And nutrition therefore is under stress. What is the National Health Mission then? We all must know about National Health Mission, a mission that was launched in 2005. Why was it launched? It was launched to promote rural and urban health in India, to improve poshan, nutrition. But in the last 7 years, the expenditure by central government has been stagnant or it has fallen down. It matters because states are being forced to bear the burden of service delivery, but they are not getting enough resources from the center. This results in a weak primary healthcare center. Last week I asked you, under which committee in India did we create the primary health centers? Remember last week we had discussed? Does anybody know? Last week we discussed under which committee did we create the public health centers in India? Yes? So what is happening as a result of center not giving money to states? Same controversy what happened in the case of Manrega bill also. Center is not now ready to support the states with money, no sharing any kind of cess. So high out of pocket expenditure for people, poor primary health, gender inequality in access to healthcare. So all these things mean that the National Health Mission will become a mission on paper. The state governments do not have the finance to implement that. Very good. So happy and so proud of you. The Joseph Bhor Committee. Bhor Committee. Again, a big round of applause. Bhor Committee. Very good. So that's what this article has to say, that in India, we are overall spending very less money when it comes to healthcare sector. So quickly the question with reference to public health expenditure in India. Look at these statements. It's the last question for the day. 1. The National Health Policy 2017 had envisaged, it had thought of increasing government health expenditure to 2.5% of GDP by 2025. Second, post-COVID pandemic, the union government has consistently increased its health expenditure as percentage of GDP. And three, state governments have increased both their health spending as a share of GDP and as a proportion of their total budget in recent years. So which of these is true? Which of these is true? Budget allocation is less than 2%. Absolutely, Shlok. Absolutely, Ram. That's correct. Ramu, that's correct. Everyone says C should be the right answer. Is that true? Is that true? First statement valid. Third statement, yes, all the initiative has come from the state. Central government has increased any expenditure? No, central government has not increased. In fact, in real terms, it has been reducing its expenditure on centrally sponsored health schemes. Very well answered, Akshay, Swapna, Santosh, Atul, codename Wheel, Naveen, Shakti, Ramu, Terukula, Abhilash. Very good. Absolutely, Madhav, absolutely. Correct. Correct, Sitaram. Answer, Eric, will be C, and you've again answered really very, very well. Other is just the opposite. Now we are almost done with the lengthy articles. In last 5 minutes, quickly just consider two news from the front page article. One is about the economic survey. What does it predict and what hope does it have for India's upcoming future? In short, the economic survey for 25-26 presents a very positive outlook for India's medium term growth, but at the same time, it also is warning us about a dangerous situation of the world economy in coming times. According to this survey, India's medium term growth will be estimated at 7%, which is an increase from the earlier 6.5%. So, India's growth will in the medium term be 7%, which is good. How does India get this growth? One, high capital formation. Two, improved labor force participation. And three, better efficiency of both capital as well as labor. The growth projection for 2026 is even higher. It is 7.4%. Okay. Now, how has India been able to improve its total growth up to 7% from earlier 6.5%? Let me quickly write down and work on these points. The first is through manufacturing sector. The first, it's through manufacturing sector. And how was India able to do that? The biggest reason India did it is through PLI schemes, production linked incentive scheme. What do you mean by PLI? What do you mean by that? One student was asking during current affairs class comment. What do you mean by PLI? PLI or production linked incentive scheme provides direct financial incentive to companies based on their output, based on their sales, increase in their sale that is made within India. Incentives are given to these companies if their production and profits keep on increasing. Why? We want make in India. We want these companies to achieve profit in India. It's a way of financially rewarding companies to increase their production in India. That's called production linked incentive. In India, we have promoted manufacturing through the PLI scheme. Second way we have done it is through FDI liberalization. What is this and how could we do that? Under FDI liberalization, public investment in physical and digital infrastructure has been privatized. Ease of doing business, we just saw one example in the pharmaceutical sector. We are now cancelling the requirement of a mandatory license for research purpose. Similarly, in other sectors also, more private companies are participating. A very good example of this could be the Shanti Bill of India. How are we privatizing, like Eric has said many times? The nuclear space in India as well today. We want more production, more profit. Very good, Ramu. Absolutely. Effective capex spending. Now, that also is a very crucial point here. Looking at how India is expanding FDI liberalization. One is public investment in digital infrastructure. Second, the MSME sector. The micro, small, and medium enterprises are also being given more licenses, more easy licenses to conduct business, to open new companies. That means ease of doing business. Recently, India has also given a huge loan to SIDBI, Small Industrial Bank of India, to promote MSME sector. Then simplifying tax laws. GST itself has become simplified now. So simplifying tax is a very good tool here. Now, looking at the global outlook, this is Indian situation, quite stable. But on the contrary, if you see the situation of the world, then the global outlook is not very positive. We may experience a lot of risk in times to come. What can happen? Article says three things can happen. The worst can happen, status quo can be possible, and positive developments could happen. What can be the worst that can happen? What can be the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that we will experience a systemic, financial, technological, and geopolitical stress situation too much. What's the major risk? The major risk today is artificial intelligence, as per this article. And why is that a risk? Because all the companies across the world are busy investing in artificial intelligence run platforms. What happens as a result of that? It means large scale investment is going towards AI. AI companies are seeing investment and projects are being financed through borrowed money. Companies are investing in AI projects. In AI companies, lot of investment is going. But where is this money coming? Money is borrowed money. This is borrowed capital. You borrow money, invest in AI because you have a high hope that AI will give you return in future. AI will give you profit in future. So you blindly invest in AI right now. This is a major risk. This is called as a high leveraged investment artificial intelligence risk. High leveraged investment. You borrow money, invest in AI. This is not your own fund. This is not investors' fund. It's a borrowed fund. Now, what happens as a result of that? If you are using too much loan or debt to finance AI investment, in data centers, high-end chip manufacturing, high-end cloud infrastructure, AI startup and platforms, it is very risky. Tomorrow, if the profits do not occur on time, if limited consumers, limited customers are there, and we are being very optimistic, but if the results are lower than expected or delayed as compared to expected, firms will continue to struggle to repay their loans, to repay the loan, and then they will get caught up in a debt trap. That will be a disaster for the economy. Investors will start panicking. It's not sustainable at all. Why will investors keep on giving you loan if you invest in AI companies only? And if those AI companies do not return profit on time, investors will not trust you. Already investors have been pulling money out of India because of the tariff. A bad implication of tariff was capital outflow. Today, if everything is invested in AI in the private sector, then that can also be a major problem. Yes, that can also be a major problem. Now, very good point made by Ramu. Not only are we making exclusive videos, I will also send you a 10-point summarization of entire economic survey. Okay, that's what I'll do on the Telegram channel. A complete summary of economic survey. So don't worry for that. Now, this is the situation right now. Already, AI is a bubble that may burst. And if combined with geopolitical uncertainty or trade disruption of further barriers, it will reduce liquidity investment in India, weaken capital out inflow, and reduce the value of Indian currency further. This is the worst situation we are prepared for. Now, best case scenario, what will happen? Best case scenario, just like 2025 situation will be moderate to medium. Conditions will continue in 26 just like the conditions continued in 2025. Delicate conditions, but overall secure conditions. Definitely. Definitely, I'll try to organize Eric. Okay? Definitely, I'll do that, Bacha. Now, what will happen if there is a complete big breakdown of multipolar global order? What happens in that case? In that case, Russia Ukraine war, Gaza Palestine war, America's tariff war, strategic rivalry will mean a complete failure of all collective security arrangement. And then there is nobody to protect you. It leads to global economic fragmentation and lots of instability. Right now, India is in a much better situation. As I said, 7% estimated economic growth potential. High growth through PLI, high growth through FDI, privatization, but all these global uncertainties may impact India. Already we are seeing huge capital outflow, currency dip, currency depreciation. Tomorrow, this trend could continue until India is able to attract stable and substantial foreign capital, until India is able to boost its export earnings by diversifying, like we are already doing through FTAs, and unless India can manage imports in a very stable manner so that it accompanies higher income for us. So, overall, what can we say? Structural reforms, export competitiveness, and investor confidence is the only thing we can have hope towards. Otherwise, in today's global uncertainty, we have a potential of 7% growth, but geopolitical uncertainty may threaten this growth. Yesterday also I told you the biggest thing is that today our currency value is declining not because of economic problem. It's declining because of tariff attack and geopolitical problems. So that's very important. Okay. Now quickly coming to the last article for the day, front page article, a very small article. What does the article say? Supreme Court has right now stayed. I repeat, Supreme Court has decided to stay the 2026 UGC campus equity rules, saying that these are two extremes. These are two extremes. Okay, these are true extreme. So what is going on? Let me summarize exactly in 2 minutes and you will never have a problem with this. What am I trying to say? One and the most important thing, the Supreme Court of India has temporarily stopped. When I say stopped, it means stayed in abeyance, stopped for now. So the Supreme Court has right now stayed what? The UGC regulation of 2026 that talks about creating equity in higher education. Okay? In higher education. Okay? All right. Is that clear to everyone? Is that clear to everyone what is happening? The government has decided to put, the Supreme Court has decided to put a stay right now on what? On UGC Equity Rules 26. Why is it happening? It is happening right now because the Supreme Court feels that these are too extreme in nature. And these regulations recognize, what are these regulations about? Why are they too extreme? Why were they created? They were created because they recognize, what do they recognize? Caste-based discrimination. Caste-based discrimination only against few groups like scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other OBC communities, vulnerable communities. Against them, we are trying to work on some kind of equality. Supreme Court has said, let's wait, let's not impose them. They are too extreme. Why are they too extreme? People are criticizing them. And why are people criticizing them? People are criticizing them because they do not provide equal protection to students from other general or so-called upper caste. Due to this, there was a widespread protest against them and they were called as illegal and very, very discriminatory. The Supreme Court says these rules, therefore, can divide society. They need to be carefully analyzed and examined. And until a final decision can be taken, the older UGC rules of 2012 will continue to be implemented. Yes, continue to be implemented. Petitioners are arguing that the new rules could be misused, especially in cases like ragging in colleges. It could be given the color of caste or community. The court feels that this discrimination should be defined in a more inclusive manner, not just based on caste. And judges are also warning that such rules could lead to segregation on the basis of caste or community within the campus. It harms unity. So, what can we understand from this article? The court has said that educational institutions should reflect national unity. It should not divide people on the basis of caste or culture or religion. So, Supreme Court has proposed these rules will be stayed for now because they are only supporting equity on the basis of caste, and that is not something that we are ready to accept because these are looking very divisive in nature for a country like India that believes in unity without uniformity, diversity without fragmentation. Okay? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. They can be used, Priyanshu. You must use them, in fact. So that's it for today's Hindu class. A quick reminder. Yes, it is caste specific. We can't achieve Viksit Bharat or any equality, and that's why Supreme Court says, wait, hold on. Until more clarity and more examination happens, we are not implementing them. Okay, so thank you everyone for being there for the wonderful participatory class. And do not worry about the budget. Let the budget arrive formally. And even when you talk about the economic survey, let me send you a quick summary of that so that you have handy notes for that. And very good, Ramu. Indeed, when you are looking into caste discrimination, you are not only violating Article 14, Article 21, Article 16, but also you are going against the spirit of promoting brotherhood and unity in India. Okay, and do remember until 31st January we still have That is until tomorrow. We have up to 77% off on our platform. So those who are willing to join 26, 27 or 28 course could use code SLIVE. What will happen after that? Above up to 77%, more discount is possible. Okay. So think about that. And if you are interested, do let us know because sale ends tomorrow. I'll post all the relevant questions for the day, answers, quiz, everything on Telegram. So thank you so much. Bye bye, Swapna, Shakti, Shlok, Sitaram, Ramu, Terukula, Priyanshu, Tenzi, Rajnishwar, Bulbul, Iba, AB. Bye bye, all of you. Saurav, Sumed, Ramu, Hika, Hira, Shlok, Shakti, Chip, Sitaram, Abhilash, Eric, Madhav, Sumit, Naveen, many code names, Atul. All right. Bye bye, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye, Sonu. Bye bye, Roshan.